أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم قامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا ونطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يقسمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد ضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على عيونهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مزيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقا قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين كان عبد الأيام المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद रुलाने आती है यादे हुसैन रोज मुझे रुलाने आती है यादे हुसैन حسین روز مجھے میں وہ نہیں جو محرم کا انتظار کروں غم حسین کی جانب سے کوئی جبر نہیں میں جب بھی روتا ہوں اپنی خوشی سے روتا ہوں رلانے آتی ہے صلوات محمد والا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
مومنین آپ سے سورہ فاتح کی درخواست ہے. سید عباس رضوی حسین رضوی کی بات. بارے دیگر سلوات. مجرئی شاہ نے کہا لاش پر نانا زینب. مجرئی شاہ نے کیا لاش پر نانا زینب اور ذرا ساتھ سکینہ کو بھی نہ لانا زینب. لاش عباس سے ہر دم یہی آتی تھی صدا گر ملے پانی تو سکینہ کو گر ملے پانی تو سکینہ کو پلانا زینب. مجرئی شاہ نے اہل حرم پہ آج قیامت کی رات ہے جنگل ڈراؤنا ہے یہ وحشت کی رات ہے یتیم روتے ہیں غربت کی رات ہے سر پر نئے حسین یہ فرقت کی رات ہے. خیمے جلے پڑے ہیں شاہ مشرقین کے مٹی پہ آس ہوتے ہیں بچے حسین مٹی پہ آس ہوتے ہیں بچے حسین وہ رات اندھیری اور وہ میدان کربلا لاشیں پڑے ہیں ریت پر جن کے ہیں سر جدا غربت یہ کہہ رہی ہے کہ ان پر ہوئی جفا چادر اڑائے کون حرم سب بے چادر اڑائے کون حرم سب بے ردا سردے کے رائے حق میں یوں ہی نام کرتے ہیں دن بھر کے تھکے ہوئے آرام دن بھر کے تھکے ہوئے آرام کرتے ہیں. شام غریبہ کرتی ہے زینب عجب فغاں نالوں سے ہل رہے ہیں زمین اور آسمان ہے حسین کہہ کے جو روتی ہے نیم جان رن میں وہاں تڑپتی ہے لاشیں رن میں وہاں تڑپتی ہے لاشیں آواز آ رہی ہے بہن میں تیرے نثار، اے غم گسار میرے یتیموں سے ہو، اے غم گسار میرے یتیموں سے ہو زینب نے پیار کر کے یتیم حسین کو گودی میں اپنے لے لیا اس نور عین کو۔ بی بی ذرا تو کیجیو کم شور و شین کو، کل صبح دیکھ لو گی شہ مشرق ہے، کل صبح دیکھ لو گی شہ مشرق ہے کو۔ بہلائی یوں پھوپھی کے وہ خاموش ہو گئی، غربت سے ماں کے زانوں پہ سر رکھ کے سو، غربت سے ماں کے زانوں پہ سر رکھ کے سو گئی۔ گزری ہے آدھی رات فلک بھی ہے نو اگر، گرتے ہیں تارے ٹوٹ کے مانند اشک تر، اور چپ کے روتی ہے ایک بی بی ننگے سر، ہے چوب خیمہ ہاتھ میں باندھی ہوئی، ہے چوب خیمہ ہاتھ میں باندھی ہوئی، کاٹی ہے رات آنکھوں میں زہرا کی گلزار، مصروف ہے تلائی میں بھائی کی سو، مصروف ہے تلائی میں بھائی کی سو۔ آواز آئی گھوڑوں کے ٹاپوں کی ناگہاں، دیکھا سوار آتا ہے اس سمت بے تھکاں، بڑھ کر پکاری کون ہے کیا کام ہے یہاں، وارث ہمارے قتل ہوئے لٹ گیا مکان، اللہ ہے گواہ نہیں پاس مالو زر ہمیں، چادر ہماری چھن گئی اور ہمیں نہ، چادر ہماری چھن گئی اور ہمیں نہ، لیکن بڑھائے آتا تھا گھوڑے کو وہ سوار، زینب کے پاس روک لیا آہ کے رہوار، الٹی نقاب چہرے سے اترا وہ شہ سوار، بیٹی کے سامنے تھے کھڑے شیر کردگار، ہے خاک سر پر تھامے کلیجے کو آئے ہیں، پرسا بہن کا بھائی کا دینے کو، پرسا بہن کا بھائی کا دینے کو آئے ہیں، پھیلا کے ہاتھ باپ سے زینب لپٹ گئیں، رو رو کے کہتی تھی میری قسمت الٹ گئی، باقی جو پنجے تن کی نشانی تھی مٹ گئی، بابا میں اپنے بھائی سے جنگل میں چھوڑ، بابا میں اپنے بھائی سے جنگل میں چھوڑ گئی، اماں کا گھر بھرا ہوا برباد ہو گیا، سیرا جو کربلا کا تھا آباد ہو، سیرا جو کربلا کا تھا آباد ہو گیا، رو کر کہا علی نے ہو قربان یہ پدر، سو رہی ہو تھوڑی دیر کے ہوتی ہے اب سحر، در پہ صبح کو ہے تمہیں شام کا سفر، دربار میں یزید کے جانا ہے، دربار میں یزید کے جانا ہے، مشکل کشاؤں ظلم یہ دیکھا نہ جائے گا، بیٹی رسن سے ہاتھ تیرے باندھ جا، بیٹی رسن سے ہاتھ تیرے باندھ جا، آئی صدائے فاطمہ فریاد یا علی، کھیتی ہماری ہو گئی برباد یا علی، مشکل کشائے خلق ہو فریاد یا علی، بچوں پہ میری ہو گئی بیداد، بچوں پہ میری ہو گئی بیداد یا علی، کھیتی میری اجڑ گئی گھر میرا لوٹ گیا، زینب بیری داسر شبیر کا، زینب بیری داسر شبیر کا ہٹ گیا۔
کرتا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو ہوتے تھے آپ میں جو کبھی کرتی تھی فغان گودی میں لے کے پیار سے کرتے تھے یوں بیان قربان تیری آنکھوں کے آنسو نہ کر رواں اب میرا رونا اور یہ غم خانہ بابا جان کیوں آپ کو ہوا ہے گوارا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو تھی موتوروں نے نچے آپ منا ملبوس اپنے ہاتھ سے اکثر مجھے پہنائے سوتے نہ تھے بغیر مجھے سینے پر سلائے اب بے سکینہ عیش ہے ابرار ہائے ہائے کیسا قرار آپ کو آیا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو بنا کے شام وہ لے جاتے ہیں ہمیں پرسا نہیں ہے کوئی کہ کچھ اس سے ہم کہیں فریاد غمزدوں کی نہ حضرت بھی گر سنے کب تک ان آفتوں میں رہے آہ کیا کرے کیا کہہ رہی ہو سیدے والا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو بے غور کیوں پڑے ہیں تمہارے رفیق صاحب لاشیں پہ جلتی ریت پہ میں خود دیکھتی ہوں جب ہوتا ہے میرے دل میں پہ دو بال غم و تاب دفنات ان کو کوئی نہیں اس کا کیا سبب کیوں بے کفن ہر ایک کا ہے لاشا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو آتی ہے دادی جان کی آوازیاں سنو کس درد سے پکارتی ہے بابا جان سنو کرتی ہے کیسے رنجو علم کے بیاں سنو کیا سو رہے ہو بنت نبی کی فغا سنو کس منتوں سے کہتی ہے زہرا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو اے جان فاطمہ پیمبر اٹھو اٹھو اے نور عین فاتح خیبر اٹھو اٹھو دیکھو اسیر ہو گئی خواہر اٹھو اٹھو چلا رہی ہے آپ کی دختر اٹھو اٹھو کیا سو رہے ہو بیٹی کے شیدا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو پوچھے جو مجھ سے فاطمہ سغرا تو کیا کہوں پیاسے شہید ہو گئے بابا بیاں کرو اکبر کا میں نے دیکھا ہے لاشا بیاں کرو اصغر کا سر بھی نیزے پہ دیکھا بیاں کرو کیا کہے کہ اس کو دوں میں دلاسا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو مشکل کشا کی بیٹی کا بازو اور رسان زہرا کی بیٹیوں پہ ہے یہ رنج اور مہن سر پر نہ چادرے ہو نہ برقع نہ پیرہن بازار شام اور تماشائی مرد و زن کب تک یہ حال زار رہے گا جواب دو بابا جواب دو میرے بابا بابا جواب دو میرے بابا جواب دو
loving husband, a very caring and affectionate father, a true, genuine friend, more than a friend to his friends, basically. He's like a family for all of us. Since the eve of the Chand Raat, I mean, as the moon is sighted for the Muharram, our association, he would just devote himself completely for the Azai Hussain. So apart from all the beautiful attributes he was gifted with, the biggest virtue that belongs to him was he was Ashiq Hussain, Azai, a true Azada, real lover of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. Can I request you all to please recite Surah Fatiha for him? So anyway, inshallah, he will continue to live in our hearts, and we shall remember him every year, year after year, whilst commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we'll also remember the Ashiq Hussain alongside, and may Allah bless his soul. Can once again please recite Surah Fatiha, Sayyid Abbas Hussain ibn Sayyid Mushtaba Hussain. Bismillah. Inshallah, tomorrow will be the concluding lecture of this series by our eminent scholar, Sheikh Hassan Roushandel. So the majlis will start same at 7:30, and that will be the concluding lecture. He's going to present the khulasa, basically the conclusion of all his 12 lectures. I would urge, plead, request you all to please be on time to benefit from his inspirational lecture, inshallah. And then from 17th August, we are having a Urdu Khamsa, 5 majalis series of Urdu recited by a scholar coming from India, Maulana Urujul Hassan Misam. He'll be reciting the majalis. That program is going to start from 7 p.m. As the Maghrib is getting closer and closer, so we'll start that program at 7 p.m. inshallah. Please try to spread the word, and also requesting you all to kindly attend those majalises. There'll be 5 majalises, 17th to 21th, inshallah. May I now request Sheikh Hassan Roushandel to please come out to the member to recite the lecture tonight. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, Ba'azibul and Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على رسول الله خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولا سيما على بقية الله في العالمين صاحب العصر والزمان. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we start the lecture for today, I would like to ask everyone to kindly recite a Fatiha for 2 marhooms. First is marhoom Hussein Abbas, Said Abbas Hussein, who has been mentioned and remembered very dearly in this community multiple times, and today as well we listen to his beautiful recitation. May Allah inshallah rest his soul in peace. May Allah inshallah bless him with the blessings of Akhirah. Inshallah, he be the guest of the Ahlul Bayt these days. And I would also like to remember a dear family member whose 40th day was today, Marhum Ishtiyaq Bande Ali, and they had the Khatm today in Iran. So if I can request all the mu'mineen and mu'minat to please recite a Fatiha for these 2 marhumin, preceded by a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In a narration attributed to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, it is said that he has mentioned الناس عبيد الدنيا والدين لعق على ألسنتهم. Human beings are slaves to the world. That's how they are created unless they go through training. They go through conscious, active training in order to make sure that they do not become slaves to this world. وَالدِّينُ لَعِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Religion, alongside many other things that human beings use to their own utility and to their own benefit, religion is also part of the many other things that they use for their dunya. And it's only on surface level, and it's only said by tongue. Usually, this is the state of a human being. It won't be otherwise unless the human being goes through a level of training, goes through a level of practice and consciousness, and bring iman to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that doesn't happen, then this is normal, and religion will be used in order for their own gains and their own benefits. فَإِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. When will you know whether someone is a religious person, is a pious person? That is when they are tested. And in these tests, they experience difficulty and hardship, and they have to go through it. Then it will be a test for everyone to know how much they have trained on themselves, how much have they trained, and how much they have worked on themselves. So this is the general principle. And in the previous lecture, we mentioned that we agree to this state, and we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us embark on this journey. We know that we start the journey without certainty. We know we start the journey without this level of itminan in our heart, but we're asking Allah, through the experiences we go through in life, provide us the means of growth so that we can start seeing Him in everything, so that we can start seeing His wisdom in every event in our life. This is what we're asking Allah, hopefully sincerely. And we mentioned the story of Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, how the disciples went to him and they said, "Can your Lord," first it's with this language, "Can your Lord provide us with a table full of food?" And he said, "Don't speak like this. This is how the ignorant speak." But rather they then changed their tone. They said, "No, what do we want? We want to eat from it and we want to witness it. And لِتَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبُنَا, or لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبُنَا, our heart, for our heart to rest in ease and reach certainty. In order for that to happen, we need to see some things." That's what they said to Isa. And Isa alayhi salam didn't object to that. He went to God and he said, "Oh Allah, send upon them." And God didn't object to that. And Allah sent the Ma'idah to these people. There is another story in the Quran, very interesting, in the similar, you can say, theme. It's the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And we showed Ibrahim the reality of the heavens and earth. Why did we do that? In order for Ibrahim to reach certainty. وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. Even the prophets don't start their journeys with certainty. They arrive at certainty. We mentioned the story of Ibrahim somewhere else, where he asked Allah to show him, لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي, he said, "I want to see how you bring the dead to life." Somewhere else, God says, we showed him the reality of heavens and earth in order for him to become from the people who have certainty. Now, how did this happen? Did he just go on a journey and God showed him everything? No. Nothing happens in this world other than through experiences. In the nights before we mentioned, even Dawood has had to go through experiences in order to be given the kingdom. He made mistakes in the path, but those mistakes were not sins, so that they didn't take away the state of infallibility from him, but they were nevertheless mistakes that he learnt from. The prophets, other prophets also went through the same experiences. So now we come to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Over here, Ibrahim doesn't make a mistake. That's why he's among the higher rank. He has a higher rank among the prophets. What's the story of Ibrahim? Ibrahim alayhi salam goes through a journey. The Quran talks about this journey. The Quran says he went to the people who worshipped the moon. Okay, this is something very beautiful. He says, okay, I worship this. What's the verse in the Quran? Please recite the salawat. He saw the moon. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا. So first he saw the stars. He saw the stars and he was like, these are very beautiful. So these are my Lord. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَا. When they disappeared, قَالَ إِنِّي لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. He saw that there's something inside his heart that is not at ease. He says, how can I believe in a God which disappears, which is not always available for me when I need him? Then he goes to the next one. He sees a moon, and he says, okay, I'm going to say that this moon is my Lord. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ. That disappeared as well. But he had a different realization at this point. So he's on his journey. قَالَ لَئِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. If my Lord doesn't guide me, I am going to become one of the misguided. So this is a second realization. We're going to come back to it. I'm just mentioning the story so that we know what we're talking about. And then he goes to the Shams. He goes to the sun. And he says, this is the sun, and this is bigger, and this is my Lord. Then basically, when it disappears, he says, فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ قَالَ سُبْحَانَكَ. I can't remember the continuation of the verse, but he basically repents and he says, no, I'm not among these non-believers. So the interesting part of this story is this. Number one, did Ibrahim really believe in these things? Did he really believe that they are God? Na'udhu billah? Or no? He was pretending. Now the interesting part is that the Quran doesn't mention this explicitly. So whether he was pretending or he was actually going through this, we don't believe he was going through this. But the Quran mentions it generally. Maybe the reason is for us to understand that even if he was faking it, he was trying to pretend for the people, at least to us, the Quran wants to teach us a story. He wants to teach us a lesson, God. He says, look, Ibrahim went through this and he had some discoveries. Sometimes in your life, you need to go through some experiences in order to discover things and things to become real for yourself. You are born with a religion, but how much does this religion weigh? What's the weight of it? How much is the value of this religion? Not much, unless it becomes real for yourself, unless you go through an experience. So even Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran, God shows us the story of Ibrahim in a way so we see it as if he's gone through a journey. Now, what did this journey teach him? Two very important lessons. God teaches us about these things, but God doesn't force us. This takes us to the next topic, which we're going to discuss, human beings and freedom. God explains things for us, but doesn't force us into things. The same with Ibrahim. Through this lesson, he's teaching us two very important things, perhaps. The first one, he says, قَالَ إِنِّي لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. He doesn't start with a philosophical argument. Ibrahim doesn't say, when he saw the moon, when he saw the stars disappearing, he doesn't say, okay, based on a philosophical argument, something that disappears cannot be worthy of worship and is not the creator of this world. He doesn't say that. He says, I look deep down in my heart and I realize I can't be fine with a God that disappears. Hub is a matter of the heart. It's not a matter of the intellect. Intellect has its own place, but guidance happens through the heart. So if anyone is looking for guidance, they need to be very in tune with their heart. And in order for someone to be in tune with their heart, they need to be aware of themselves. What we explained in the previous lecture, that there's so much emphasis in our religion that, oh insan, take care of yourself. Oh insan, learn about yourself. The narration said, I am in surprise how a person can know their Lord but not know themselves. It's impossible. You have to start with yourself. So if you're looking for guidance, you need to listen to your heart. But if you want to listen to your heart, you need to know the tricks of the mind as well. You need to know the tricks of the nafs as well. If you're not a trained person, your heart says so many things to you, but they may very well be the temptations of the nafs, not really the divinely inspired heart which is within yourself, the divinely guided فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. It may very well not be that because you're not very trained. There are thoughts coming, there are whispers in your ears, but you don't know how to interpret them. So therefore you really need to work on yourself. Okay, having said that, Ibrahim makes an argument using his heart. He says, La uhibbul afilin. I don't feel comfortable with something that disappears. Okay, but we know that the heart can be very deceptive as well if we don't know how to interpret it. Sometimes it's the satanic whispers. So in the next point he mentions it very beautifully. He says, look, I am going to start listening to my heart from today. But there's one thing I need on top of that. قَالَ لَإِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي. I'm going to be among the misguided. If my Lord doesn't guide me, when I'm going to listen to my heart, I'm not going to know what to listen to, which part of it to listen to. So this is as an answer to those people who argue that I follow my heart. Like that's not a bad thing per se. But when you follow your heart, you have to know whether that thing which you're hearing in your mind and in your ears is actually the divine aspect of your heart and not the temptations and the whispers of the shaitan. If I can ask everyone to please stand up and move forward from the ladies' side and the gents, inshallah, please recite the salawat. So Ibrahim went through this journey and he learnt lessons for the journey of spiritual growth. He learnt he has to be in tune with his heart. It's not all intellect. Our narrations emphasize on this. Our narrations talk about the role of intellect and aql a lot, But they also say that there are some things which are a matter of heart, and the intellect cannot penetrate through that border, the barrier. And also the necessity of guidance and asking for guidance. So if you are embarking on this journey, God doesn't force you to anything. We'll get to that discussion now in a minute. God doesn't force us to do anything. As you can see, you've been given the sense of free will. Right now, you've made a decision, as you all would think. You've made the decision to be here tonight. Our perception is that we can make a decision ourselves. And God hasn't forced us for that. But God does provide us with teachings for the journey. This is one of them. So you have to constantly ask Allah for guidance. And now, inshallah, we're going to go to the discussion of freedom. Inshallah, please recite the salawat. Whatever we've been talking about in the previous nights is premised on something very important. And that is that if an insan is not left free to make decisions of his or her own, whatever we've been saying about taking one step and moving forward in our spirituality, in our life, would just go outside the window. Why? Why would it go out the window? Because the moment I sit with someone and I say, hey, why don't you start learning about spirituality? Why don't you start learning about your religion, everything? The notion you get from them is like, hey, I've inherited this from my parents, okay? It's been good so far, so, I'm holding on to it. But it doesn't seem like something that you're responsible for actually digging in deeper and making sense of. It sounds more like something that you've inherited and you're just trying to hold on to it tight until the day you die. You just go, it's like a amana. You just give it back. It's like, I've kept it sealed, never been opened. I'm just giving it back to you. I haven't touched it. Is that the reality of religion? Is that what God expects from us? Or no, He expects from you to open it up, to dig in deeper, to make sense of it, to make it a reality of your own. The person comes to you and says, MashaAllah, God is so merciful. He's a Razzaq. He gives rizq as much as you want. And I say to him, okay, how do you know? Have you experienced it yourself? And he says, no, but my cousin, he asked God to give him this, and God gave it to him. I'm like, okay, my mum, whenever she asks, God gives it to her. So God is so merciful. And I'm like, fine. But what about yourself? Have you experienced it yourself as well? God is so amazing. Why? Because Ayatollah Bahjat, when he prays, see how humble he is? See how tears flow from his eyes. This is a very interesting. So salat is so good. Salat is so spiritual. Okay. But have you experienced it yourself as well? Or you're just saying it out of other people's experience? In order for you to feel responsible, in order for you to feel the sense that, hey, I can also do this, you need to know that God went against the majority of the cases where He created everything in a way that they do not have free will. And that is the principle. We explained this last lecture. The principle is nothing in this world has free will. Everything is bound to the laws of matter. Everything is bound. For example, the tree is bound. The tree doesn't have a decision whether to grow or not. But there's one being which exceptionally is not bound. It is bound to some things, but God made sure to set the exception that human beings are not bound to be doing things that they do not want. He made sure to give them the sense of autonomy, of freedom. I can make a decision whether to do this or not to do this. And when God speaks to the Prophet, it's so beautiful. He doesn't say to the Prophet, okay, Prophet, come here. Do you want me to take away the sense of freedom and autonomy from this being that is really torturing you and just force him into religion and force him into Iman? Would you want me to do that? He doesn't say that to the Prophet. He sets the laws very clearly even for the Prophet. He says, this is how I've created this world, and you sort yourself out with all due respect. وَإِن كَانَ كَبُرَ عَلَيْكَ إِعْرَاضُهُمْ, if them looking away from religion is causing you discomfort, if it's too great for you, if you can't deal with it, فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ أَن تَبْتَغِيَ نَفَقًا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَوْ سُلَّمًا فِي السَّمَاءِ فَتَأْتِيَهُمْ بِآيَةٍ. If you think you can do it, dig deep into the ground, or basically climb up the sky and get them a sign. But you can't do that. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَمَعَهُمْ عَلَى الْهُدَى. Don't have the wrong perception. If Allah wanted, He would have gathered everyone on guidance. And this final line is really tough to accept. That God says this to the Prophet. فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Don't be among the ignorant. It is only the ignorant who really struggle. Oh, this person is misguided. I really need to guide them. I need to force them into guidance. That's not your responsibility. Sit back. God has created this world in a way that for Him, it's more important for that human being to feel that they have a choice whether they're going to pick something or not. It's more important for God for that to happen rather than gather everyone on guidance and just everyone to live happily ever after. So if you want to understand the laws of God, if you want to know how God has created this world, if you want to be a smart student of this world, you will study the laws very carefully. And this is one place in the Quran that God is teaching the Prophet about how He has created this world. And He says to the Prophet, He says, the moment you start thinking about, oh, I wish everyone was guided, and I want you, Allah, guide every single human being, even if you take away their free will, you're an ignorant if you say that. So learn about the system and follow it and abide by it. This is the importance of freedom. This is the importance of the sense of autonomy in human beings. You need to make the decisions yourself. Now, there's so many people who say, what is this religion of Islam? It's so coercive. It forces you into things. It doesn't give you any, way out of things. It's so compact. You feel stuck. You can't breathe. It's suffocating. I'm like, do you know why? It's because you started with the ahkam, with the practical laws, without setting the grounds, the foundations straight. When you start with that, you realize that if immediately, without someone coming to you and say, hey, by the way, God has respected you, has honored you, He made sure you have free will, He made sure you make the decision yourself, and now these are the laws. He hasn't forced you, because if He wanted, He could have forced you like He's forced a tree to grow in a direction where the tree has no say in it. But He wants you to pick the guidance yourself. Okay, when you set that straight, then you come and say, He set some laws. These laws are for your own good. But when you give the person this sense of value, when you give the human being the sense, they will know that even if they do abide by the laws, it is them making the decision themselves. I am making the decision myself to pray. You start shifting the mindset. I am making a decision myself to follow this marja because I know this marja is the most knowledgeable, is the one who is the most skilled in giving me the laws of God. He may make a mistake, he may not. I'm not a blind follower of this marja. I decide to do that and I take it on board. It's my decision. This is a very important aspect. When you start owning your own decisions, then you'll understand that you have to build a relationship with these things. If God has said it, there's a meaning behind it, and it's not expected from you only in all of its ahkam and all of the teachings of religion for you to just be blindly following. There needs to be a change happening inside you, and that is when the spark happens and you realize, okay, I want to connect to this God. I know He's got some laws, but I want to learn more about it. I want to learn more about His system. I want to learn more about how I can rely on Him. I want to learn about these concepts. I want to become a bit more spiritual. I want to follow His laws because I don't want to be a lazy student of this world. I don't want to be making mistakes so that it would directly or indirectly impact my life negatively. We've been talking about this for the last 10, 11 nights. But as a human being, the spark comes when you feel responsible and you feel honored. Not just responsible, i.e. accountable. No, honored. You've been given the honor to make the decision. And if you do make the decision, that's when your action will become valuable. That's when an action is valuable. Other than that, there's no value to it. So this is the topic for tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to summarize this and finish it off, inshallah, this topic. And hopefully I will summarize the entire 10, 11, 12 nights that we've lectured here, just to give the summary, the main points. And inshallah, I think there's going to be a Q&A as well tomorrow, if I'm correct, towards the end. Please recite the salawat. As Maghrib is basically coming sooner and sooner every day, we'll end the lecture here, and inshallah we'll remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam tonight as well, in a very short musibah, and I will then inshallah give the mic to the Marsiya inshallah. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا مولاي يا مظلوم يا شهيد يا غريب يا أبا عبد الله. Let's remember the Imam alayhi salam. Let's remember the family of the Imam, which in these moments we can only imagine what they're going through. They're taking the family of the Imam, but they're going through a number of difficult moments. On the one hand, you see that in their minds, they're remembering every single event that happened yesterday. On the other hand, imagine they're trying to forget. They're trying to just ignore it. They're trying to distract themselves. But then, every now and then, they bring the heads out. They present it to the family of Imam al-Hussein. They start remembering it again. La ilaha illallah. What do they remember? They remember that Imam al-Hussein, when he came back to the tent, and the moment that he was bidding farewell, the moment that Imam al-Hussein was speaking to his 6-month-old child, the moment that he took the child to give him water, these are the moments that are coming to the mind of the family of Imam al-Hussein. The moment that the Imam returns to the battlefield, and the moment that he's fighting and the family are in the tents, not knowing what's happening outside, and the Imam keeps coming back and reciting La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. They remember the strength that they used to get, and they're probably hoping that someone from somewhere comes and says the same lines and shows them some support. But Imam al-Hussein is not there anymore. Abbas alayhi salam is not there anymore. La ilaha illallah. It is said that Imam al-Hussein was martyred at the time of Asr on that day. After the martyrdom of the Imam, people began to loot and plunder his body. It's said in a report that those who stole something from the Imam all became afflicted with an incurable disease. La'natullahi alayhim. The army also loots the possessions of the Imam and the companions and the family. La ilaha illallah. It was close to the sunset when the head of the Imam was given to Khuli, so that he can take it back to Ibn Ziyad, la'natullahi alayhima. And it was at that moment when Ibn Sa'd ordered his soldiers to trample the bodies of the Imam and the companions. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلوات.
Hussein, 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 Hussein. शोले हैं भड़कते हुए, हर सिमत धुआं है, ज़ैनब प मुसीबत है, क़यामत का समा है, कहती है मुहाफ़िज़ मेरे पर्दे का कहाँ है, हम गीरते हैं दर मेरी चादर को बचा ले, अब्बास उठो आग लगी जलते हैं ख़ैमे, अब्बास उठो आग लगी जलते हैं ख़ैमे, फिर ग़ैज़े यदुल्लाह ज़माने को दिखाओ, फरियाद चहीती की है इमदाद को आओ, गौहर न छिने आके भतीजी को बचाओ, दामन में सकीना के हैं लिपटे हुए शोले, अब्बास उठो आग लगी जलते हैं ख़ैमे, अब्बास उठो आग लगी जलते हैं ख़ैमे, تم آؤ تو پھر ظلم کی طاقت نہ رہے گی. تم آؤ تو زینب کی ردا چھن نہ سکے گی. تم آؤ تو بیمار کی مسنت نہ جلے گی. تم آؤ تو بیمار پہ برسیں گے نہ کوڑے. عباس اٹھو آگ لگی جلتے خیمے. عباس اٹھو آگ لگی جلتے خیمے. برچھی کی انی پر ہے ابھی تک دل اکبر. اور باپ کی آغوش میں کملا گئے اصغر. شبیر کی گردن پہ چلا شمر کا خنجر. اب عابد بیمار بھی شعلوں میں گھرا ہے. عباس اٹھو آگ لگی جلتے ہیں خیمے. عباس اٹھو آگ لگی جلتے ہیں خیمے. اب آل محمد پہ مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے. کیا وار سے تطہیر پہ امداد پڑی ہے. یہ دختر زہرا ہے جو بلوے میں کھڑی ہے. بیمار سنبھلتا نہیں کوڑے ہیں برستے. عباس اٹھو آگ لگی جل. اٹھو آگ لگی جلتے ہیں. حسین 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 حسین. یالی یالی.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي